The story I'm about to tell you involves a boy, another boy, and a girl. As you can see, the three have gathered for their weekly Saturday afternoon tea. The subject of today's afternoon tea is a chocolate cake, and that is precisely where the problem arose. But before I move on, I should more formally introduce you to the boy, the other boy, and the girl. This is Susie. It is common to see a pencil in her shirt pocket, but it is missing. This is a typical situation where you may find Susie, and these are typical people to be found preying on Susie.
Oh, look at him!
As you can see, things aren't perfect. Secondly, we have Gunther. Gunther dreams of one day becoming a world-class chef. Unfortunately, reality pays him little kindness. His misfortune in cooking is not faulted by the lack of talent, but rather the lack of the ability to read. You may have noticed that Gunther is little better off than Susie. Lastly, I introduce Paolo. Paolo likes to consider himself an artist, but most consider him obsessive-compulsive, mostly because he likes things to be perfectly immaculate. And if one is to observe more closely, you may notice that every item of his belonging is, likewise, immaculate. Paolo suffers from a certain form of asthma. Susie has hypothesized that this is caused by a condition which she likes to call wearing one's belt too tight. Paolo has never actually completed a piece of artwork due to the lack of inspiration. Now, returning to the story, the centre of our attention is to be focused on the chocolate cake we see before us. Things were progressing, as usual, just fine, until there was only one slice of chocolate cake remaining. Perhaps if Susie had her pencil, she may have been able to solve the problem, but she did not.
It's mine, boy.
Okay, stop.
The easiest solution was to flip a coin. You may have noticed that a coin has only two faces, and that in this case there are three people. But Gunther could not count, and Paolo had learnt not to question Susie's judgment, so it was agreed that flipping a coin was a suitable solution. The flipping of the coin needed to be perfect. So entire concentration was required. But when the time came to flip, it was ill-timed. The result was devastating. And as Susie lay motionless, something incredible happened. It was at 3 p.m. that this revelation occurred, and precisely 3 days later that the ideas were acted upon. Here we have Susie, in what is now considered her usual habitat. Susie translates, Paolo has finally found inspiration, and Gunther produces. Years pass, and we find the three at their first book launch. Written by Susie, illustrated by Paolo, and inspired by Gunther. Of course, every week, a boy, another boy, and a girl gather on a Saturday afternoon to enjoy afternoon tea. As you can see, a rich chocolate cake is involved, one of Gunther's creations. The cake proved to be most delectable, but in the end they were faced with a somewhat familiar problem. Though this time, Susie has a pencil, and resolution is discovered. The cutting had to be perfect. Perfect. All that now remained was one more slice, but when the time came to cut, it was ill-timed.